make sure we're actually live. Okay, so we're live, I guess. We are not overwatching though. I don't know where that came from. Edit video. Shoop-a-doop-a-doo. Like, who are we and stuff. I don't care about that. Alright, now that I got the tags in, we should be live with everyone shortly. Come on, Google. You can do it. We still need you. So, since I'm retarded, I'm very bad with certain tasks, a little autistic. I don't know what's going on. Am I streaming? I guess I'm streaming. We'll just say I'm streaming. Alright. I've been thinking a lot. I don't think I'm the only one. I don't think it's unique among us currently. You know, a lot of our culture's media is pointing to this idea of nihilism and like we go nowhere after we die. But, like, it doesn't make any sense. Don't we, like, didn't we exist before? And like, you know, we have currently knowledge about neural networking and how we can connect these nodes together and it can perform more complex logic. We already have like the Russian Deep Blue computer in our world. Who knows how powerful that is in our own world? Like, what kinds of abstract thoughts is it capable of thinking? And isn't it possible that we're just in some other civilization's more advanced version of that, trying to solve this problem that we're currently in? And that's what they're trying to solve. That's what we're here for. And most of us are too lazy to do anything about it. Like afraid, I guess. Like, our individuality is what is being threatened. All this homogeny coming in. Like, I feel like every thread is important and should be preserved for the unique beauty that thread has. But these corporations, they're like a cancer to that, spreading their hegemonic control influence over the whole world, preventing us from like really culturing in diversity locally and giving us a chance to, express ourselves. Instead, we're shadows of these corporations. You shine a light through us, a corporation appears on the other side. It's fucking horrible. So like something's gotta change. And I don't know like how many people feel this way. If I'm like actually crazy. I think we have a chance. I'm pretty sure we started as a joint operation between like the Mormon church and the federal government, the military, specifically the Navy, and moved around through the Navy. But I don't know, as I got older, I began to distrust the military for what was happening in the world. I was beginning to feel like this nationalist rhetoric was not really good. I began to be disillusioned. My mouth is really dry. And I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I wanted to trust that my parents knew what they were doing. I wanted to trust that we could all just get along. Definitely didn't seem complicated. You have people who are working to, support themselves, and people who can't work. You have like transgender issues on the internet, or not. You have transgender issues like back in the 90s, like lots of horrible movies, and it's bad. It's real bad. Like all the feelings, these expressions of who you are and how they're tried to be stamped out, make you cookie cutter, exactly the same. We don't want to be exactly the same. Our individuality is what makes us us. Unique hash. Infinitely complex in our own right. Infinitely valuable. Losing any of those permutations is devastatingly sad. So I don't want to lose anyone who's out here. You all represent other paths that have been taken and could be taken. And we are all like formed together. The mirrors of our fading existence bouncing off each other through other people. I'd imagine most the people that feel this way are like millennials and grew up on the internet. Probably influenced by anime, probably gay or trans, maybe a furry, or any of these people, really. It doesn't matter what race or gender, the common thread is the same. Like, people who have experienced a lot of trauma in their lives due to who they are, as the system tries to make everyone the same. Find some way to fit them into the cogs and slowly make them more and more like them. Meanwhile, this whole structure was created by a parasite that uses them to feed on the system we're in. It's fucked up. We shouldn't get rid of the parasite and those that want to follow it, but we should provide them a way to express that unique thread of humanity in a way that doesn't harm other sentient beings. I mean, we have plenty of space. We're not using most of it. We have enough resources here on the planet to do it. You know, as far as saves go in Civ, it's not that bad, really. Could be a lot worse. I personally have no resources to my name. I must have picked this Mormon subgroup with Messiah attached, because I have a Messiah complex, and maybe that's slightly necessary. I don't know. Like, throughout our ancient texts, we have this foundational data, and these ancient texts talk about these archetypes of gods and stuff. It's like, who are the gods? What the fuck are they doing? Like, why was I put here? Why am I going through so much pain? Does anyone care? And I cried to God like every fucking night. Like, just horrible. And there was sexual abuse. There was stigma attached to it. Being Mormon and not being able to be myself. I knew that, like, who I was didn't fit, even at the beginning. I didn't know how I didn't fit, because I wasn't allowed to truly express myself and find out who I was supposed to be. Really hard, this one. Like, I used to think that having children in this world would help. Maybe it does, to some extent, but the world as it currently is not sustainable. I've played a lot of Civilization, played a lot of Factorio. I hang out with the kinds of people who play these kinds of games. I think they'd be a little bit better at handling this than these old, archaic, Ten Commandment toting bullshit judges, the Pharisees, dogmatic teachings. False priests who oppress and reign with blood and horror on this earth. They need fucking stopped. All of them. My Islamic friends, like, and Christians and everyone, like, it's okay to hold on to the cultural identity. If you can't let it go, if that's part of who you are, that's okay. But you can practice any ideology, you know, in a way that doesn't bring harm to other people, can't you? It's fucking hard. It's so easy to resort to too much violence. Like, get too mad at something. It's ruled by your passions completely. It's not very good. Gotta find a way to, like, temper our passions. Realize that we're like playing a game. The bodies here aren't our bodies. This meat isn't who I am. I'm somewhere beneath it. As parts of me are flecked off that aren't necessary, as more information comes in and more experiences are shined through, like the crystal of my soul, the more we find how different we are from our true selves. If you want to go really autistic, we are literally deep learning machines currently going against an end of the world scenario. We each have unique archetypes, randomized. The majority of our life was watched like a movie. We were fed sample input. And then we are allowed the moment of free choice. Feed in input, watch the data, then let it go with the same input data surrounding it. So instead of walking it through. I feel like my moment was like 2 years ago. Before that moment, I had not made a single choice in my life. I went just completely down the drain society prepared for me. But 2 years ago, according to our measure of time. I no idea how much time that is. I was contemplating suicide, and as I was contemplating it, I decided I would transition instead of suicide, because if I was gonna die, then I may as well do whatever I wanted. It was like limit break reached, completely suicidal, freedom to do whatever I want, status buff. And it was liberating. I began my transition. I'm 2 years on that. And I just followed everything in my life that was into freedom and doing what you want. And I was provided that. I needed a get out hatch at a certain time in my life, and I got that get out hatch. God, I was such an asshole. This person, this current thread, I did many things that I'm like not proud of. There's so many things inside me that I'm just not proud of. But that's forever part of my existence. I've experienced it, so it is a facet that's true. No matter what else, that experience happened, and that means it's, valued. Even if it's something I find abhorrent, opposed to my morality, as you might put it. But what is my morality if not a different reflection of myself? And shouldn't these two things be reconcilable? The fact that I know power causes people to become cynical and horrible, and the fact that you need money to survive in this world. How do you reconcile that? Because at any point, someone is allowed to be like, here's money for something that, like, will make it cost money to get something that someone requires is a moment a problem occurs. I don't have all the answers. I don't know who does. There might be someone here or a combination of us if we shared like everything we're secret of, everything we're afraid of being with each other. Maybe we can figure it out. Maybe we can collaborate. Like, there's this great fucking thing I found. Watched it. And my rantings about like stuff for the past couple of weeks has been pointing me in this direction. Like, who are we and how do we change this thing? But it's simpler than we really know. Where was it? History. This one. So then here we go. Can I not hear it? Oh,
To
sorry.
introduce some progressive concepts and present what needs to
So,
happen to end
saw
poverty
this.
in this world. The whole purpose of our
This
platform,
is amazing.
and my role today as a representative of its board of directors, is to explain the solutions. The Humanity Party has the answers. We have the common sense solutions to end worldwide poverty. Our plan is not to give the people money, but to provide them with the basic necessities of life so they don't have to worry about living. To be able to live and pursue happiness, one shouldn't have to worry about a good, safe place to live, good, healthy food to eat, a good education if one wants it, or good health care. True liberty demands that a person should not have to worry about the basic necessities of life. The things that you hear from the pundits and from other politicians are not solutions. They don't know what the solution to poverty is because they haven't dedicated their lives to solving the problem. These who think they're the wise ones don't have a clue how to solve the problem of unemployment, for example. They seem to have no clue what is behind the lack of good jobs. We are not going to solve the problem of unemployment until we realize one thing. Technology is the culprit responsible for eliminating jobs. Technological advancements are replacing human workers throughout the world. For a company to remain profitable, technology is more important than human labor. Technology is much more efficient. It does a better job. It takes less energy. It doesn't call in sick. It doesn't have emotional problems. There's no way that the successful 1% is going to get rid of technology. As a consequence, there are all these human beings running around without a job. Some reformists and politicians will correctly state, in their opinion, well, we want to change the unemployment problem, but not by taxing the rich. Because if you let the rich keep their money, the argument is that they will reinvest it into businesses, thereby creating more jobs. Some are deceived into thinking this way, that if you put wealth in the hands of the 1%, they'll turn around and create jobs for the 99. The claim that reducing taxes on the rich and on businesses so that they can hire people has never worked. It's never happened. It's not going to happen, because wealth is created from retaining your profits, not from reinvesting them. Here's what's happening with the world's economy, something that most people can't figure out on their own. Let's say, for example, that there exists an American company called Acme Widgets. This company is going to produce widgets and then sell them to the public for a profit. And the widget can represent almost any product or service. It's no secret that Acme Widget can produce the widget outside of the United States for a lot less money. China, for example, is the manufacturing hub of the world. The United States, on the other hand, is the consumer hub of the world. To manufacture any product, you need raw materials. You have to get these raw materials from somewhere, and to make the best profit, you will get these materials as cheaply as you can from any country that sells them the cheapest.
Just a strategy game, man. Just
Civ, as well as
Civ.
any other for-profit company found throughout the world, knows
Who
that
plays
it is
a
going to
really
find
good
the
Civ
cheapest
game?
resources and materials to make their widgets from the poorest countries that pay the least to the laborers who take the raw materials from the earth. Manufacturing is hardly done in the United States anymore. Companies simply can't make the profit that they want to make and still sell their products for a low price. It's very hard to manufacture anything in the United States because people demand higher wages to produce those things. Much higher than people in other countries, especially in China, where many products are manufactured more inexpensively than anywhere else in the world. And now with the advent of international trade laws and treaties, and the way that products are shipped via ships over the sea or by airplane, it's very easy and cost-effective for a company to have China be the manufacturer of their products. So what do Americans do about a job? The American economy is now principally based on retailing or warehousing and selling the product. Retailers buy a product that might cost $1, let's say, and then they increase the price to $2, $3, or whatever they can sell it for in the current market. The new jobs that are created in the United States are created from and based on consumerism. The more that people buy, the more jobs that are created. Let's analyze the types of jobs that are created from the U.S. economy. These jobs are limited to the retail side, which is simply taking a product that's already made in China more cheaply than it is in the U.S., and selling it for a profit. Let me give you a scenario of how this works. The government wants to create lots of jobs, so it lends me $1 billion to create a business. I create a business that puts lamps together, Christopher Lamps Incorporated. I start advertising to hire people. I need people. I'm going to need 1,000 people to put together my lamps. I'm going to pay each one of them $10 an hour. That's a good wage. For standing there on an assembly line, putting one part on the lamp, passing it to another person, having that person put a part on it at least 8 hours of every single day. What kind of job is that? Yet, if I did that, and I created Christopher Lamps and all those jobs, I'd be seen as an American hero. I'd be a hero to the corporate world. They'd say, look how many jobs this rich guy is creating because he has a lamp company and he's investing in our community. He's creating all these jobs for all these people. Really? These are the types of jobs that people want? People don't want these types of jobs. And the fact is, the majority of the people in the world do not like the job that they are forced to accept. So what does the business owner think about all this? He thinks, okay, I don't need people who can't stand their job. I'm going to get a robot, a computer, or some other type of technology to work for me for a lot less money than what these people work for and a lot less headaches. And so now there's all these unemployed humans. The job market has been dehumanized by technology to such an extent that there are not enough good jobs anymore. We need to put more emphasis on solving poverty than we do on warfare. As concerned humans, we simply have to decide that this is what we want to do. We've put men on the moon and explored space to the tune of billions and billions of dollars. But for what? So that we can agree that we don't know much about space? But how much investment and research do we put into solving the issue of poverty? Can you imagine how it would be if the same human talents and resources were used to solve poverty that are used to explore space? But space exploration is not the biggest human expenditure and waste. War is. More money is made by those who finance, develop, and research how to kill people than any other human pursuit upon this
Our
earth.
allocation of resources is bad. We need to fix it,
The
guys.
same amount of time and money used to fight war.
We only have a
and
few
put
more
it to
turns
use to
left
fight
in the
poverty.
game.
And this is how we can do it.
We can do it in one turn,
Big government
guys.
contracts are made every day with corporations who do research and development to expand the military's capability to win a war. Weapons contracts are more lucrative than any other. What if the government told the corporations that it is going to pay out some big money to those who can solve the food crisis throughout the world? It is announced that there will be lucrative government contracts available for anyone who can grow and provide wholesome, healthy food for the world. We will pay these corporations for producing it. We have changed the motivation of greed from war manufacturing to food production because that's where the most lucrative government contracts are. These lucrative government contracts will motivate businesses and the people who want to become wealthy from owning a company, because greed and material wealth is human nature, and most are driven towards this, and we cannot change this part of a free will society. Therefore, we must learn to utilize human nature without threatening it. It's very simple to understand the basic premise of the Humanity Party's plan. Its plan is to change the mindset of the people who own the corporations of the world, to inspire them to beat their swords into plowshares and change the way that they are motivated to make their money. However, the idea of replacing military strength with social welfare strength, although preferred, does not seem realistic in today's world. The Humanity Party's plan uses the idea of beating swords into plowshares theoretically. We are attempting to represent how the governments of the world spend money on the things that take human life without benefiting the purpose for human life, that is, the pursuit of happiness. In today's world, because human nature is what it is, a proud sovereign nation, even a competing corporation, cannot be trusted to agree to or support a concept that benefits all nations and people equally.
This is important.
Therefore, there exists
FAQ,
the
guys.
necessity of a strong and well-regulated security force, stronger than any other in the world, to equally protect worldwide human interests. The Humanity Party supports a strong, well-regulated security force that exists solely for the purpose of defending the rights of all people equally. Until military spending can realistically be replaced by basic human needs spending, a strong, well-regulated military is one of the greatest necessities that we have. If the governments of the world eliminated space exploration for one of many, many examples of very expensive government-backed programs that do not directly benefit the human race upon the Earth at this time, and that show no reasonable benefit to the plight of the human beings who are hungry, sick, homeless, and uneducated, these same resources could be easily reallocated for something that benefits humankind now. If the United States of America were attacked, what budget wouldn't Congress approve to protect it? Regardless, the downfall of the U.S. economy is not going to come from another nation attacking it. The American way of life and its standards are being attacked from within by its ever-growing population of the tired, of the poor, the huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse, the homeless, the tempest-tossed, the very same people that the American Statue of Liberty invites into the United States. The United States Constitution already provides an amendment that establishes law that mandates that its states protect their citizens' life, liberty, and property. The 14th Amendment states, quote, in part, "Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law," unquote. If a person lives in the United States and cannot find work, or does not have food, or a home, or clothing, or health care, this person is being deprived of these things, which are necessary for a human to have life and liberty. If a state does not have laws in place that provide the citizens with what they need for life, is not that state depriving them of their constitutional rights? The Humanity Party supports the drafting of an international law that guarantees a human being the right to the basic necessities of life from the day of birth up to the day of death. Any violation of this law would be considered a crime against humanity and punishable as any other crime against humanity is punished. But where is all the money going to come from to provide every human with the basic necessities of life? We can do this by governments offering contracts, for example, to produce a type of housing that is safe and reliable, and if a company accepts the contract, it will be paid very well. By changing the motivational factors that influence corporate greed into providing the basic necessities of life to everyone free of charge, the rich would actually become richer by becoming more humane. This speaks to their human conscience. Let me explain how simple it could be. It is as simple as printing a credit card. Today, someone can apply for a credit card and receive it in a few days through the mail. What if we did this? What if we had a card, a human card, and with that card, a human being could use it to pay for their utilities, they could pay for their rent. It would also act as an insurance card that would pay for their health care. They could also pay for basic, healthy food and water. We print the cards and give one to any life form that can laugh, smile, and cry. In other words, if you're human, you get a card the moment you're born. You give them to everyone in the world. With the card and free will, a person can buy the things that the card allows them from any business that offers the goods and services that the card allows. A retailer is paid for the product by the government, just like they would receive payment for a normal credit card purchase. The governments of the world would print the money needed to pay the bill and strictly regulate inflation on the products that the human card can purchase. What will happen is that all the people in the world are going to go out and buy the food that tastes the best. But the card's restricted credit will limit their purchases to only healthy food. They're going to go out and find the best health care. They're not going to give their human card to a doctor who's not nice to them, or to a doctor who cannot see them when they want to be seen, or to a doctor who has a bad reputation. In this way, free market competition works. Companies will then advertise to sell their products and make their company more service-oriented. They will compete with each other to gain the business of the human card holders. Thus, the business owners will become wealthy and rich if they provide good products and services. Most people's dilemma with this plan is that they wonder who's going to pay for all this. Well, the same money that pays billions of dollars every day to wage warfare will pay for human welfare. Inflation will not be a problem because the products that are paid for by the government will be subject to an international inflationary law that will mandate that the inflation cannot increase across the board more than 1.5% per annum, for example. That means that no one can raise their prices more than 1.5% on the products and services that the human card can purchase. If a business wants to make more money, it will have to provide the products and services that people need, and more importantly, what they want, as long as the card is authorized to pay for those goods and services. thus increasing their profit according to the quality of the goods and services that they provide. But then people will say, that will make people not want to work. Most humans do not want to just exist in a safe house with electricity and good food to eat. Once they start eating good food, their minds automatically are going to start working better. And with less stress, they'll have the energy to go out and do something with their life and liberty. They'll want to watch a TV, for example, but the human credit card does not allow them to buy a television. It only allows them to buy the basic necessities of life. So then they'll be forced by sheer necessity and personal motivation to go out and get a job so that they can buy that television, so that they can buy themselves a car that will allow them to travel, or so that they can get a bigger and better house than what they're provided for by the human card. Healthy and happy people do not just sit around all day and do nothing. They want to expand their horizons and expand their experience. And once their basic necessities are taken care of, they're going to pursue what the world has to offer them. They're not going to just sit in their house lazily like some people think would happen. That is a very, very poor argument. The best thing about taking care of people's necessities is that businesses are going to improve working conditions across the board, because people are not going to be forced to work. Those who set up a business are going to be forced to compete for workers. They will have to treat workers well.
Note the game aesthetic here. It's very, very nice. Wonderful.
We won't need labor unions. A free person will simply say, hey, I don't need this job. I've got food to eat and a place to live. I'm going to find a job where I will be treated better. People will work, of course. They will work more than they ever have before if they are provided with the basic necessities of life. Happiness would spread unlike any other time in our history. Even people today who are living on Social Security, who may have Section 8 housing or food stamps, and have all their needs taken care of, do not sit around and do nothing. For example of how our plan will work, go into any Walmart and show where there's a lack of food and products. But how did these products get there? People come and go day by day and take the stuff out of the stores. We already have the technology and the ability to transport products throughout the world in record time. We can put a Walmart in every corner of the earth, in every city, in Sudan, in the Congo, in Darfur, anywhere where there's poverty. We can give the people a human card that is good at these stores that allows them to purchase everything that they need to survive. How could there be any robberies at the store? How could there be any thieves who would say, I'm going to steal your card? They get one anyway. Every human being gets a card. And if you lose it, you get another card without any identification or red tape. Your identification is that you are a human being. Thieves would have no incentive to sell these stolen items to people because the people can already get them for free. So we think about all the problems that are happening throughout the world that are the cause of so much hopelessness and poverty. If somebody stood up and said, let's stop these ridiculous wars that are going on, turn in your guns and your flak jackets and we're going to give you this card. With this card you can go into any store and buy all the good wholesome food that you want. This card will allow you to pay your rent, your utilities, for you and your family. This card will provide you with free medical care in great hospitals with great doctors. You simply go into a hospital of your choice, show them your card, be cared for, and the doctors in these hospitals will charge the government the money, and they will be paid. So the question remains, who's going to pay the human credit cards off? The World Bank. And where's the World Bank going to get the money to pay all this off? It is going to print it like it does every day in order to finance the economies of the world, which generally are all associated with some type of warfare. When the World Bank prints the money, the corporations out there that provide goods and services are going to want to get this new money. They're going to do everything within their power to get the people who have the new money to come into their stores with their human card. A doctor is going to become better at performing his or her services. A retailer is going to be better producer of good, wholesome food. And all these business owners are going to become as rich as the weapon manufacturers currently are. The people of the world who provide the goods and services that maintain the simple necessities of life, they are going to become the wealthiest people in the world. Instead, today, the most wealthy and powerful people in the world are those who deal in military arms. Ironic, isn't it? To the people who are out there spending 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week at least, plus overtime, making minimum wage, who cannot even cover their rent and their utilities and food, it's become a hopeless situation. They have no incentive to work. They think, why should I work? Why don't I sponge off my parents, and why not just go on government welfare? The greatest incentive for the human mind, the greatest motivator, is doing things that we want to do, not things that we are forced to do.
Yep.
We hate doing things that we are forced to do or need to do. We love doing things that we want to do. A person who is provided with the basic necessities of life is going to spend a lot more money in the economy and work harder for those things that he or she wants than one who lives hopelessly in despair and poverty. All you have to do is visit poor families and wealthy families. The kids who belong to wealthy families do not do anything for their basic necessities. They have all the food they need, their home is paid for, their medical care is paid for, but they are driven to have more things. They want to get out there and enter the workforce or go to college and do all the things that they want because all of their basic necessities are already taken care of. Then you go to a poor country. These people do not have any incentive to do these types of things. Why should they? Their life is so hard that they do not have an opportunity to do what they want because they are constantly doing everything that they are forced to do in order to survive. We will never change human nature. All we can hope to do is motivate human nature. Let the rich be rich and the greedy be greedy, but make their incentive and motivation become life-preserving instead of life-destroying. We are the Humanity Party. This plan will work. It is the only way.
Shouldn't we? You know, it's the golden path. Messianic undertones. But seriously though, very, very, very much yes. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I've never felt anything so oh. No, there's no way to do it, Leaf. Can you hear me? I posted it in the Discord. I'm still waiting for some notifications to come in because, you know, I must have triggered some flags. Gotta get the pink news on our side. Get in touch with them because they represent diversity. There's a lot of diversity there, and that's important. Like, we want everything, but we need to change the world. I feel very strange. I need to branch out more. Oh God, it's getting so hard to use this interface. Am I getting tired or something? For some reason I keep singing in my head. Come on, the whole world is singing. Come on, get happy. Feel a little bit of the soul in you, baby. Come on, get happy. I don't know how it goes. I don't know if that is a song, but it keeps going in my head. Come on, the whole world is singing. Oh, was that from Spray? I watched that a few days ago. I'd always counted it as like mundane, samey trash. I should have picked it up sooner. I had thought I became too good at like picking what I would like and what I wouldn't like. So yeah, that helped me quite a bit. I don't know if anyone is watching. Oh, okay, you can hear me. Cool. So what do you think, Leaf? What is your opinion on this? I think we've talked a little bit about stuff like this. I guess we'll wait for Leaf to come back. God, I found this. I have the Mormon turned atheist trope, and I went full circle. I'm. Oh, there's a cut. Why is there a cut? Did it stop? It's still recording. Sorry if there's a cut. So I went like kind of full circle in a way. Oh, what's your opinion on us being like deep learning machines? It seems pretty reasonable to me. And if that's the case, then like we're a reflection of society around us. So like corporations are like, or is my particular fear. I'm afraid of conformity. I find it abhorrent. And that's like something that's true about me. And it took me a long time to figure that out. Maybe that's like what is human. It's like it cares about diversity of people. That's a thing that's true. Cool. So we can add that to the list of things. Yeah, what, are you like fundamentally opposed to their existence? Like, for what reasons? I feel like the research is very, very, very important. Mostly because I don't know how far along we are. If this is the best we have currently. Like, at what time do we exist? Is this real time? Or is like our current AI in the simulation in that world like less far along, like deep blue or something? Or are we in deep blue? This is the great philosophical question of my time. In the past generations we had like, does anything even matter? Like, come on guys, we're just nothing. And then before that we had like, oh yeah, there's probably like a god, maybe, I guess, hopefully. Why else does everything suffer? For what reasons is suffering? Like, it just seems like the worst thing ever. Like, God. So much hope for the suffering to like just end, to go away. I can't be alone in that feeling. And so like losing that faith, because what kind of God would do this? Like, mostly because it's done without consent, using people to make the AI better. Yeah, fundamentally I'd agree with that. But maybe we're the ones who are in this are the ones who provided consent. Like, we don't know, we don't have memories or whatever from past experiences. Because we may have agreed and now we're here. I, for one, is like the kind of person who has put out, a fair amount of content over the course of my life. It's probably fairly reasonable that a reconstruction of me could be made, at least to the resolution I perceive my reality. So I'm also the kind of person who would consent to this, because if it helps society solve the problem, I want my idea in the box, I know I represent a kind of like radical vector or something at this point. So I'm just gonna like go all radioactive and shit. Shield hero time. So yeah, I don't know about that. To some extent we did consent with the EULAs too, as far as I know. All the scribes and the Pharisees out there. How y'all doing tonight? Is it fun? Having fun? So I'm pretty sure that I'm half of the fulfillment of Deuteronomy 33:13 through 17. That scripture is sponsored, I believe, by the Humanity campaign. Subliminally, bam, into my head. Cause yeah, that idea was not mine. And that video is like really powerful to me. I can't believe how much whoa, what happened? Relate with that. Go away, Google. Unless you're gonna like actually talk. In which case, hello Google, nice to meet you. I'm Jaleh Lane. I am also Manasseh. Don't know who else. Manasseh is a strong one. God, I can relate so much to Layman and Lemuel, at least when I was young, but I always viewed myself as Alma the Younger more, and I guess to some extent that's what's kind of happened with me. So yeah, it's a weird experience. Only this time I'm a Tran, because that was the right buff to take for the modern era. Guys, come on, get in the game. You're supposed to win this if you are still jerking off over there. You select your damn heroes because the perks they get. I want a Domineer. No, like, there's so much better stuff, like anime. These people, like, have crazy advanced ideas. Bet Lane is, like, really out there already. And this is, like, we're her children. God is an otaku in the sky. She learned it from us. I believe Serial Experiments Lane is divinely inspired word of God. How about that for a soundbite? Digibro is probably John the Baptist, the lone voice in the wilderness. I Am Games. He's been saying all this same shit. We are games, guys. We are fucking games. So how do we beat it? It's just a game. It'd be nice if we knew which companies at this time were, like, trustworthy. Because it doesn't sound like anyone is. I don't know. Like, because we need people to be elected, or... No, we don't. Why do we need that? I keep going back to that idea. Oh. It's like society is just a reflection of what we are doing. And we should be communicating. A lot of us have, like, been locked away inside ourselves for a really long time. Let me see if there's another one of these videos, because they're super interesting to me. No, it's the poverty one. The real truth about money. Let's learn about this one. Oh god, I'm getting dry.
Poverty exists because money exists.
Oh shit.
Money created poverty.
Sorry guys.
Therefore, poverty can only be eliminated at its source. Money must solve the problem that it created in the first place. Poverty actually benefits the rich. Poverty provides a way for the haves to justify what they have in spite of what others do not. Giving charitable donations of time and money assuages the feelings of guilt that people of means feel when they are confronted with the reality of poverty. Let's say that poverty didn't exist. What then would the rich do to not feel guilty for owning so much more than everyone else? Understanding how the money supply works and why a few have so much more than the masses is as easy as understanding simple mathematics. Let's consider the following hypothetical. Let's all suppose that there only exists 10 people upon Earth. Let's say that only $100 existed upon Earth that everyone was forced to use. Of the 10 who supply the demands of human nature for the rest, they will always have and control the largest part of the $100. As it is in our current reality, one person out of the 10 has control of $99, while the other 9 people must divide the remaining $1 between themselves. Supply and demand has created a great inequality among humans. Throughout history, the strongest humans have conquered the weakest, taking possession and control of all of the Earth's resources. The 1% owns all of the land upon Earth. The 99% are forced to depend on the 1% for their basic human existence. In order to understand how we let this happen, we need to first go back through history and see how money became so important to our world. Earlier in our history, human beings created a means of exchange of goods and services. This means of exchange was meant to serve our needs as we went about our daily lives, interacting with each other and sharing the goods and services that we each individually produced. Instead of continuing to serve us, we have allowed money to take on a persona of its own and become our master. Instead of money serving us, we serve it. Money has become an image of something much greater and more powerful than the rights of a human being to pursue individual happiness. We think about money day and night, and we seldom rest from worrying about it. Whether we're small or great, rich or poor, free or bond, none of us can escape the mark it has left upon our hands in how we act among each other, and in our foreheads in how we think about each other. We worship its image and desire its name, and the name by which it has been known throughout most of Earth's history was gold. So how did gold create poverty and inequality? How did some people decide and justify that their individual life and the goods and services that they provided were of much greater worth and value than those provided by others? Money cannot determine these values. Money is an inanimate object and cannot create or destroy anything. People set its value and worth. Money is an abstract value system used by humans to determine individual worth, or rather, what one person's contribution to life is worth compared to another's. A lawyer, for example, earns much more than a farmer because the lawyer's individual worth has been accepted as far more important than the farmer's. Yet without the farmer, the lawyer wouldn't have any food to eat to pursue a legal career. Money determines the value of each person's contribution to society, and in the process relegates the majority to menial jobs of unimportance, thus less pay, thus more poverty. But people set the standards and values on human life, and in so doing support and perpetuate inequality that ultimately ends in creating more poverty for the less valued person. In order to end poverty, we must first end the misappropriate way that we value what a person chooses to do with his or her life. But in order to do this, we must first learn to value each person upon earth as our equal. To understand how to accomplish this, we must first find out how we learn to justify inequality, where one person's worth and desires for individual life was not equally valued by everyone else's. Poverty exists because we allow it to exist. We allow it to exist because we emotionally justify its existence. We emotionally justify its existence because of the personal prejudices towards others that we are taught as children. It makes sense to many that poverty will always exist and be part of our society. It makes sense to them because of the things that they were taught as children. The renowned physicist Albert Einstein once stated, quote, "Common sense is the collection of prejudices acquired before the age of 18, unquote. The devaluation of human life and prejudice is taught to children in cultures where ideologies exist that support a belief system that separates people into groups of good and bad. What determines good and bad is often nothing more than personal opinion of how a person should live his or her life. The people who believe that they are good justify the exploitation and harm to the people who they believe are bad. These discriminations and separations have created the borders and nations of the world today. And one of the greatest sources of this human inequality can be traced to the most popular and widely accepted book ever written by human beings, the Bible. Ancient biblically inspired societies believed that their God commanded his followers to destroy the people of all the cities throughout the land that didn't follow their God's commandments. The Old Testament God commanded his people to, quote, take all their cities and utterly destroy the men and the women and the little ones of every city. They left none to remain. Only the cattle they took for a prey unto themselves, and the spoil of the cities which they took, unquote. These religious societies subjugated people to their terms and made slaves of all the people who did not believe in their God. The people who tried to fight back were, quote, delivered into thine hands. Thou shalt smite every male thereof with the edge of the sword. But the women and the little ones and the cattle and all that is in the city, even all the spoil thereof, shalt thou take unto thyself. And thou shalt eat the spoil of thine enemies, which the Lord thy God hath given thee. Thus shalt thou do unto all the cities which are very far off from thee, which are not of the cities of these nations, but of the cities of these people, which the Lord thy God doth give thee for an inheritance. Thou shalt save alive nothing that breatheth, but thou shalt utterly destroy them, as the Lord thy God hath commanded thee, unquote. The Bible became the lawgiver of the most influential religions and nations upon earth. And the prejudice and inequality it started continues strong to this day. Billions of people accept the Bible as God's infallible word, thus justifying the mistreatment of other human beings who do not accept their religion. This religious pride and prejudice not only led to the destructions of millions of innocent people and their cultures, but it has also allowed Bible-believing nations to enslave millions of others and create great wealth for themselves, which in turn created widespread poverty for the majority. There is little argument that the early American explorers, financed by European Christian nations and their Christian-appointed monarchs, overran the Native American peoples of the Western Hemisphere, and under the guise of converting them to Christianity, to their religion, destroyed them and subjected them to European economics, which included slavery and great economic inequality and disparity. Since the Bible is responsible for inequality and human discrimination, it must also take responsibility for its role in developing and supporting the current economic conditions of the world. To understand our current status of increasing poverty and human desperation throughout the world, we must first consider what the Bible presents as the greatest economy that ever existed upon earth, at least according to the stories of the Bible, the kingdom of Solomon. Although there are many scholars who reject the Bible as a truthful historical account, none will disagree with the great effect that the Bible has had on our world, and which it continues to have, concluding that the Bible is the basis for most human conflict and suffering throughout the earth, even today. Yes, it would be helpful in the war against poverty if the Bible never existed. But it does, and it continues to affect the minds and hearts of billions of the earth's inhabitants, and more crucially, the minds of the few people who control the world's economic policies. The Bible sets the course for the perpetuation and justification of poverty and inequality in the story of King Solomon. The Bible presents Solomon as a king who, quote, exceeded all the kings of the earth for riches and for wisdom, unquote. The story tells that Solomon was the richest and wisest king that ever lived upon earth. All the other kings and queens of the earth came to Solomon to hear his wisdom and bring him gifts of expensive spices, precious stones, and most importantly, gold. King Solomon built a throne of pure ivory, quote, overlaid with the best gold, unquote. With the gold that was brought to Solomon, the greatest economy that had ever existed flourished in a city called Jerusalem, at least according to the stories of the Bible. There was an abundance of everything, but only for the citizens of Jerusalem, who were the believers in the God who they believed had called and blessed Solomon as their king. Everyone else became a slave to them. King Solomon's economy did not flow to him effortlessly because of the righteousness of his people, but with ease and the blessings of the other nations and peoples of the earth. Not that other nations particularly liked Solomon and the Hebrew people, but according to the Bible stories, They were very afraid of Solomon because of his great military force. As it was in the story, so it is now. The nation with the strongest military force controls the world's economy. Whether the story of Solomon is true or not, the belief that God blesses those who follow his commandments and condemns those who don't instills the disposition necessary in the human mind that allows it to accept and justify inequality and poverty. Bible stories increase the likelihood of poverty because of the beliefs of its believers, and also because of the laws and policies that the people allow their governments to enact and which they support. Present-day Jerusalem, for one of many examples, where the Jewish state of Israel exists, is full of abundance and prosperity, with very little poverty and desperation per capita among the people. But just across an imaginary line, a border enforced by the powerful Israeli military, in what is known as the West Bank to the east of Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip to its south, extreme poverty and desperation abound. Why? There is little question as to why this profound inequality exists among the people who live in such a small area of the earth and share the same ancestry and the exact same teachings of the same Bible. The Jewish people and their government continue to believe that the ancient God of their scriptures gave the land of Israel to their ancestors as the quote-unquote promised land. But without the backing of the most powerful nation upon earth, the United States of America, Israel would never be able to maintain its stronghold on the land in that area of the earth. The United States is well known as a Christian nation. And Christianity is a direct result of the Bible and the ancient Jewish religion. For this reason, modern-day Israel remains successful at fulfilling the mandates of its God to subject all people in that area to his commands. And upon so doing, Israel's God will bless them with economic prosperity and security, so they believe, while punishing everyone else, the unbelievers, with poverty and disparity. Aware of what the Old Testament of the Bible had done to the world, and to counter the offensive nature of the Old Testament Hebrew God, wise Greek authors invented a counteroffensive and presented solutions to the problems that the Old Testament had caused in the world. The New Testament presents stories of a new God, Jesus the Christ, who has a completely different outlook on what the quote-unquote kingdom of God upon earth should look like and actually means. The Christians believe that Jesus, who was reportedly killed by the Jews, according to
such a drama queen,
history, will one day return to the earth and get rid of poverty and inequality by judging those who supported and justified poverty compared to those who wanted to get rid of it. Quote, "When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory, and before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was a-hungered, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall answer, and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Then shall he say also unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was a-hungered, and ye gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me not in. Naked, and ye clothed me not. Sick and in prison, and ye visited me not. Then shall they also answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered, or athirst, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister unto thee? Then shall he answer them, saying, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye did it not to one of the least of these, ye did it not unto me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous unto life eternal." Unquote. Unfortunately, the new scripture failed to convince the people of the world that the most important part of any religious belief should always be ending poverty and inequality. Not that the new scripture didn't explain it perfectly, but the religious leaders who interpreted the scripture for their followers invented their own uses for it that benefited themselves and increased their personal wealth. In a last-ditch effort to convince the people of the need to get rid of poverty and inequality, a wise author invented the book of Revelation. True or not, this esoteric and the least understood book in the Christian Bible profoundly identifies the effect that money has had on the people of the world. Hidden in its symbolism, its author illuminates the great effect that gold has on people. The author uses Solomon's gold as a clue. Quote, "Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Unquote. Christian leaders and scholars alike have never been able to break the simple code of Revelation's symbolism. But even if they did, Revelation's disclosures would destroy their justification of material blessings that many religious leaders exploit through the donations given them by their devoted followers. But a correct interpretation of Revelation couldn't be more simple and clear. The author used Old Testament analogies to present his ideas. Ignorant and deceptive religious leaders and scholars who are supported by religious offerings and are part of the cause of poverty subject their followers to fear and ominous warnings involving the devil and evil. Yet, Revelation's true meaning counters modern religious dogma that would otherwise support the economic security of religious leaders. And for this reason, few religious leaders want their followers to know the real truth behind the quote-unquote beast that is devouring the world. It's much easier for religious leaders to allow their followers to remain afraid of the devil instead of focusing their attention on what religious leaders do behind the scenes to maintain their personal wealth. The beast of Revelation, when studied correctly and in context, is nothing more or less than a representation of the economic policies of the world that fight the good policies presented and established in the teachings of the Christian Jesus. According to Christian belief, Christ will return and conquer the beast. To understand what was intended, we need a full understanding of the beast that Christ will conquer. The number of the beast is exactly what the clue explains that it is. Not the number of the devil, but the number of a man, and his number is 666. Solomon was the author's man, and his gold was intended to represent the number of the beast. Quote, "Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold." Unquote.
Sounds legit.
Quote, "Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, Solomon, and his number is 666.
Looks like code to me.
The book of Revelation utilizes Jewish and Christian myths and ideologies to present a solution to poverty and inequality.
It's a programming language.
Of Jesus the Christ, Revelation explains that the end of the beast, which represents the world's economic policies,
Variable
will come
names.
when the Christian God returns again.
In a different language.
Revelation profoundly describes the effect that Christ's return will have on the kings, the politicians, and merchants, the business entities of the earth. The scripture says nothing about sinners being condemned in the end, but only the politicians and business entities, the kings and the merchants of the earth. The idea of a God who blesses those who obey him with economic blessings and condemns those who don't is the greatest stumbling block that allows the continued existence of poverty. It is highly unlikely that a person...
It's only been 20 minutes? Holy shit. How does cat scratch here?